Guys. So yeah, so today we are reading Friedrich Nietzsche, and we are reading one of his famous written book named Beyond Good and Evil. And yeah, I've just started this book, and it is written in kind of a uh, article form in the first part, as you can see here, and on the starting, Nietzsche is saying, first of all, this chapter is on the prejudices of philosophers, the ideas and judgment which philosophers may have before maybe thinking or writing about their philosophy. So Nietzsche is commenting on that particular thing, and Nietzsche is saying in the start, first of all, Nietzsche is asking very deep questions like why we are uh, finding truth, why human have this need to know the truth, and Nietzsche also asks that why we want truth, like what is the value of truth, why not untruth, why not something else, why not ignorance, why humans are fixated on the idea of truth, like what we are seeking through thinking is truth, like what is true. And then Nietzsche says, but how can this be possible that such a true thing can be found through something which is false? Because when you find truth, you also find the false at the same times, and vice versa. So when you find what is false, you can easily see, okay, this is true, right? And Nietzsche then says, like, how can this be possible? Like, how can pure things can come out from the evil and bad things? How can virtuous things can come out of things like lust? How can that be possible? And then Nietzsche starts to comment on philosophers' prejudices, like philosophers are inclined towards religion, so they don't think about both the ideas like good and bad, and how they are balanced and how they are opposite to each other. And if you find good, you can find bad at the same time. The philosophers uh, don't focus on the bad part, they just focus on the good part because of their um, religious inclinations and religious beliefs. So that's what like Nietzsche is like commenting on these first few pages. And yeah, we will start from here only. And yeah, let me just check few things right now. Yeah, okay, so let's start from this third uh, article kind of a thing. So after having looked long enough between the philosopher's lines and fingers, I say to myself, by far the greater part of conscious thinking must still be included among instinctive activities, and that goes even for philosopher thinking. We have to relearn here, as one has had to relearn about heredity and what is innate. Okay. As the act of birth deserves no consideration. Mm-hmm. In the whole process and procedure of heredity. Okay, so let me try to understand what Nietzsche is saying here. After having looked long enough between the philosopher's lines and fingers, I say to myself, by far the greatest part of conscious thinking must still be included among instinctive activities, and that goes even for philosophical thinking. We have to relearn here, as one has had to relearn about heredity. Okay, Mm, the passion of physical or mental characteristics, the passing of traits or uh okay, uh as one has had to relearn about heredity uh and what is innate. Okay. As the act of birth deserves no consideration in the whole process and procedure of heredity, so being conscious is not in any uh de- decisive sense the opposite of what is instinctive. Oh, uh, and procedure of heredity. So uh, so being conscious is not in any decisive sense the opposite of what is instinctive. Most of the conscious philosophy is secretly guided and forced into certain channels by his instincts. That true. That true. Let me reread it again. Okay. Okay. As the act of birth deserves no consideration in the whole process and procedure of heredity, so being conscious is not in any decisive sense the opposite of what is instinctive. Most of the conscious thinking of a philosopher is secret, guided, and forced into channels by his instincts. So, so first of all, there are some vocabularies in this paragraph which I'm not aware of, like some words to which I don't know of, and also like it is I'm finding it hard to understand. Maybe read this paragraph from the and I need to like think after having looked long enough between the philosopher lines and figures, I see myself by far the greatest part of conscious will be included among instinctive activities. We're saying uh, conscious thinking must still be included among instinctive activities, and goes even for philosophical thinking. We have to relearn here, as one has had to relearn about it, as the act of birth deserves no consideration in the whole process and procedure of it. So being conscious is not in sense the opposite of what is in most of conscious philosopher strictly guided and forced in by his instincts. Okay, so he's saying instinct is kind of a genetical thing which you acquire from your parents, and instincts play a role in conscious thinking. Your conscious thinking is not free of your genetics, and your instincts give a way, or like give a direction to your conscious thinking to think and come with answers. So, and also, if you know the Darwin's natural selection theory, then you know like we were all like before humans we were chimps, and before that we were monkeys, and according to the Darwin's like tree, we are all originated from a single organism. So by that I can say that there is some kind of genetics which are getting passed on by generation and generation, and we are getting evolved, and and if our thinking, our conscious thinking is also guided, somewhat guided by those genetical uh, things, then then maybe consciousness uh, is not that free, and consciousness is not uh, not detached from that that genetical animal thing we have, right? So but we have to think like Nietzsche has to prove here if, if that is true, if our conscious thinking is constantly guided by the instincts. So he has to prove that thing here. Cannot uh, take this thing on just a claim. So let's see. Behind all logic and its seeming sovereignty of movement, behind all logic, behind all logic and its seeming sovereignty, there stands all logic. Okay, so the very tough, very deep, which is done by Nietzsche, thrown on us as well. So, necessary preservation of just such beings as we are. Supposing that is that not just man is the measure of things. Okay. So in this particular part third in the third section here where there are two paragraphs, Nietzsche says that we are guided by our instinct, by our instinct through our here to our parents and to uh, to the like how uh, genetic makeup get passed on to the next generation, and because of that instincts we think in a certain way, and he gives example for that. He gives example that mere appearance worth less than the truth, and definite should be worth more than the indefinite. So, so these are things which are intuitive, yes. Like we humans surely prefer truth over the mere appearance, prefer uh, definite. Maybe this is not. I don't know if we prefer definite more than the indefinite, but surely prefer truth over mere appearance, and there are some things we need to think about. So, so I don't know if this is substantial enough to know uh, that philosophers' thinking is guided by instincts, but I think that this thing holds some value. right? And it is very deep thinking and deep writing thought. Like cannot be just needs great thinking mind. It was great writer. That's why still reading till this date. So I'm ending this and surely we will